Hey folks, Daily Landsblog here for the 11th of April 2018. It's a time of, I think mourning for the entire country where we're still all shocked by the beyond horrible, the mind-numbing accident that took place with the Humboldt hockey team. And one of the things that I've spoken about the last couple of days is how the entire community will need to be treated for mental health challenges because this is so traumatic. But in particular, there will be people that are forgotten, people along the chain, so to speak. The first responders in particular. I mean, to show up on that scene and not be devastated by it, not be haunted by it, not be affected by it, would not even be natural. And I thought we should explore that more with the person that I turn to when we're talking about mental health and first responders, Paramedic Nat and Natalie Harris. Hey, Nat.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I know you and I were just talking before we came on that this is just it's devastating. You did the job. You're a parent. Just from every standpoint, this is one of the most shocking things that any of us have ever seen.
Yeah, it's unfathomable. Absolutely.
So let's talk in particular about those first responders, and there were many, many, many on the scene, and they are the most important people initially, but then they are forgotten, right? And it's possible even that you bring people that are critically ill to the hospital, you drop them off, and then you go back to doing your job again, and it's kind of like people assume that out of sight, out of mind. What's important for these people for them to maintain their mental health?
So, in the early stages after this level of a crisis, it's so important to implement a few things. Peer support, that would be just absolutely critical. And sometimes peer support happens just naturally by the first responders speaking to each other. But then formal peer support by trained first responders is so important. Critical incident stress management and psychological care from professionals. So like work with psychologists. This is something that just can't be, brushed aside, which won't be in the media, that's for sure, which is good. But I think we need to make sure that these first responders are given the time to process the trauma. So what happens often is they finish their shift and, they might again come back and talk about the call for weeks to come maybe. But if it's not processed in a professional way with psychologists and peer supporters, it doesn't get stored in your brain in the proper area, and that can lead to further injury and illnesses.
Like you experienced, right?
Exactly, 100%.
Right.
I
And
didn't process the trauma for a couple of years, and it grew into PTSD.
I think one of the things that as a layman, as obviously I'm not a paramedic, I'm not exposed to that kind of thing, but I would think that one of the issues would be feeling that you're not entitled to help because you're not a victim, or at least you don't see yourself as a victim. So here you are, you see this horrible accident, you help assist in the process of getting people help. And then you go on your way and you continue to do your job. And everyone talks about how, the loss of life, as we were speaking about, and all of these injuries and how the community's devastated. But if you're a paramedic, is it a challenge to say, hey, how, I need some help here too?
It is a challenge. And it's unfortunate that there is still a lot of stigma wrapped around the first responder world with respect to asking for help. And just like we know, asking for help doesn't equal weakness, it equals strength. But there is still some old school mentality out there that you do the call, this is what you signed up for, pull up your socks, move on to the next one. And that's just not the case. And we really need to change the culture and make it so that talking about these situations and talking about these calls is the natural thing that happens. It's part of your career is talking about your emotions, and they deserve to do that. They're human beings, just like everybody else on that scene.
Right.
So because they have a uniform on, isn't shielding them from the emotions that they're going to experience after this tragedy.
As we wrap this up, I'm wondering, this is the most profound thing that I'm sure these people are likely to see. But just because it's on a bigger scale doesn't mean that it's more damaging to them necessarily. Seeing, a car accident, for instance, that you would come upon with fatalities and with severe injuries would be relatively routine for these people, right?
That's correct. Absolutely. That we could do multiple traumatic calls in a day. That's 100%.
I just think of that, and I just think that there's no way. The normal human reaction to that would be to get messed up by it, because we're not wired to see those things. And it's all well and good to say, well, I didn't know those people, but I just think that maybe this horrible incident, this horrible accident, will bring focus to not just the families, not just the victims, but also people like you, the first responders, who show up and then get forgotten.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so too. They're just such an important part of the chain of help, and the doctors, nurses, just the highway workers. Everybody is just affected by this, and we need to make sure we don't forget any of them.
Thanks, Nat.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, that's Paramedic Nat, Natalie Harris. I don't think you walk around going, "Hi, I'm Paramedic Nat," right?
No.
But that's how we know you, because you have stepped up and said, "Hey, there's a whole world of people out there that need to know that there is help out there." SickNotWeek.com, 24 hours a day, 364 days a year. We're here because people like Nat, their voice has to be heard.